Manchester United 0, Crystal Palace 4. That's right, Crystal Palace 4. An absolute disaster for Manchester United. A pathetic display. A pathetic attempt at trying to play football. Genuinely tragic. It was an absolute embarrassment to everything that this football club stands for. It was an awful watch. You know, I didn't get the joy of watching it live because I was busy at the time, but I have since watched the game back, and I feel so sorry for anyone who went through that live, because it was absolutely horrendous. And probably the worst thing for me sitting here as a United fan is I'm not even surprised. I said to my brother before the game I thought Palace would win 3-0, and turns out I was actually a little bit too optimistic. And like I said, I'm just not surprised by the result or the performance or anything, because tactically, looking ahead to the game, I did not see how we were going to get anything from it, and I alluded to that in my tactical preview stream the other day. I was quite pessimistic in that stream, and I think we eventually saw why. Let's just get straight into talking about it tactically. What on earth went wrong? Why were we so bad? It's going to come down to tactics, it's going to come down to fitness, physicality, but also just individual performance being nowhere near good enough. Nowhere near good enough. Now, of course, the elephant in the room is all the injuries. The bench was absolutely decimated. The starting 11 isn't ideal. It's got to the point where we injured Bruno Fernandes, which is literally, you know, this is a first. It's the first time it's ever happened. It's horrible. Let's get past that. Let's get to the tactical side of the game, where United want to try and play out from the back. Cool. Nice and fun. Pretty easy for Palace to kind of combat that and stop us doing so, because United used a really narrow structure in the first phase of play. So we had Evans, Casemiro and Wan-Bissaka, and then Dalot would invert quite early. Sometimes it would be Eriksen in his position next to Dalot, sometimes it would be Kobbie Mainoo. More often than not, it was Eriksen. Why? I don't know. Right? Kobbie Mainoo literally profiles to be good in this role, but we use Christian Eriksen. Cool. Nice. Anyway, because we are so narrow, it's really easy for Palace to trap us and shadow press us. So someone like Mateta, for example, he doesn't have to go all the way man-to-man with Johnny Evans. He simply doesn't need to. What he can do is kind of stand between Evans and Eriksen. Because United are so narrow, it's really easy to shadow press us. So let's say Wan-Bissaka gets the ball here, for example. Elise doesn't have to go sprinting all the way to Wan-Bissaka. He can kind of stand halfway in between. He's cutting off the pass to Eriksen, but he's also stopping Wan-Bissaka from doing anything. It's really, really easy, but also really effective from Palace, and they could do it all over the pitch. You then got Wharton doing something similar in midfield, and also Hughes. And it allowed Palace to shadow press us really, really comfortably. Then when they wanted to kind of up the tempo, they could then really ramp it up a little bit. So perhaps Wan-Bissaka takes a poor touch. Now Elise might go over and really apply the pressure. Now Palace go full-on man-to-man, wing-backs on wingers like so. Full-on man-to-man and press us and, to be honest, just completely stop us playing out from the back. We've got a couple of examples of this, and we're only going to look at a couple because if we looked at every occasion, we'd run out of time. But you can see it here, the United shape is so narrow. So on this occasion, we've got Wan-Bissaka and Kobbie Mainoo making up our midfield almost. But the shape from United is so narrow, and you can see all these United players are in or close to being within the shadow of a Palace player. So Onana can't pass to Casemiro because of this shadow press. And it happened as the ball went wide as well. So the ball comes wide to Johnny Evans. We can't pass to Wan-Bissaka though, because Elise has timed his run perfectly to apply pressure, shadow pressing Wan-Bissaka, but also Johnny Evans at the same time. And it made it so difficult for United to play out from the back. And no matter where we moved, Palace had the answer to it. They shadow pressed us brilliantly. We would always end up going backwards to Onana in goal. The shadow press would continue, and eventually we would just pump it long, because that's what we do. And we know that when the ball goes long, United are bad on the first ball and the second ball. Palace get possession, they play from there. Happens in a situation like this as well. We can see Palace being incredibly narrow, stopping us from playing into the midfield, using that shadow press once again. So there is some pressure on the ball, but it's not that intense. But importantly, they are covering what is behind them. So it's really good from Palace. They deserve a lot of credit for this. But we can see United just had no way of getting around this. And Palace then would eventually slowly force us backwards, and then they could lock on fully man-to-man, really put us under pressure, and really hurt us. And again, Onana gets forced long. What I also liked about this press from Palace, though, to, kind of glaze them a little bit here, is that they were bold and they were brave with their pressing approach. Here they are essentially man-to-man. However, what you will notice is that they are not fully man-to-man because they leave the far side player open, knowing that United just don't have the facilities to use that man. If they are intense on the player on the ball, we can't use that far side option. What this means, though, is that when United eventually play long, which we often do, Palace still have multiple players back covering. So they go man for man high, but they also have cover players at the back. They have the spare men. It's almost like you're playing against 12 players because they just take up the whole pitch. And again, from Crystal Palace, it's absolutely brilliant. But it created this real problem for United that we had a decent amount of ball in the game, but we just couldn't get anywhere with it. We couldn't get anywhere with it. Even a little bit further up the pitch. Let's say, for one reason or another, we have progressed through the first phase a little bit better, like so. We still had the same problems. And the problem again was that Palace would trap us and stop us playing narrow. They would stop us playing through the centre of the pitch. We can't get into these areas. So instead what we're going to do is we're going to go wide. Garnacho or Anthony or Dallo might pull wide, but we're going to go wide. Of course, when we do that, Palace use that as the trigger to get the whole team over to that side of the pitch. So Eze's going to come over, Mateta, Hughes, Wharton, everyone's going to come over. And basically, what Palace are going to do is force us to one side and then turn it into a mini rondo. Now, a rondo is a training drill where you might be 4v3 or 3v2 or whatever in a small passing drill in a square, and it's can you get through that situation. United notoriously this season are terrible in and out of possession in these sort of rondo situations, which is why so many teams do this to us. They trap us to one side and then destroy us. So we can see it here. United are going to try and progress the ball through the middle of the pitch, but we just can't. There are too many Palace players there. Palace are in a really good structure. So instead we play wide. As this ball gets played wide, you can see Palace take this as the situation in the queue to squeeze over as a team. The whole team's going to come across the pitch to apply pressure and turn it into this mini training drill. In here we have 3 Manchester United players and 4 Crystal Palace players. But there are United players nearby. And the top players can deal with these situations. United can't. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a lack of technical ability, a lack of, IQ. Just actually being intelligent in these situations, making the right decisions. I don't know if it's a lack of tactical execution, lack of patterns of play, I don't know. But we always get trapped in these situations. And because we've moved so many players wide to deal with this, when we lose the rondo, as we always do, in the duel like this, it leaves a lot of space in the middle of the pitch. One pass through the middle allows them to get past us, and then Johnny Evans gets isolated and cooked, and the ball ends up in the back of the net. And that came from us being in possession. That came from United trying to play out from the back, and it was the story of the game. Yes, if you look at the stats, we had a lot of the ball, but it was pointless us having the ball. We got nowhere with it. It was really bad in possession. Now, again, we can make the excuse of course, a lot of injuries and things like that, but there's no pattern going on there. It looks really bad on the ball, and it hurt us defensively as well. But there was also a lot of defensive issues from Palace's sustained possession. It just got worse, really.
So before we continue into the video, a quick shout out to today's video sponsor, JerseyFIFA.com, the home of all of the greatest football kits. Whether that be the new latest releases or the old classic ones like this, Jersey FIFA has something for everyone, and now you can check it out yourself using the link in the description down below. And also make sure to use code JerseyFIFA for 10% off when you order.
So let's now move over to when Crystal Palace were on the ball trying to play out from the back. And if you thought what we have already seen is bad, oh boy, it's about to get a lot worse. Because what Manchester United done out of possession was laughable. Laughable. I was watching the game back this morning and I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I was kind of stuck somewhere between the two. Palace, again, destroyed us. They took advantage of all of the Manchester United weaknesses. The back three shape is perfect to do that against us. They destroyed us. So what's going to happen? Palace are going to try and play out from the back, and United have a front three up against Crystal Palace's back three. So therefore, it makes sense to go man for man, right? So Garnacho is going to come high up towards Klein, Anthony up towards Richards. Boom. Happy days. The problem is, we have Casemiro and Evans at centre-back. So we have to be 2 versus 1 up against Mateta, right? We can't be 1v1. If we're 1v1... just write the game off there and then. So we have to be 2 versus 1 here. Okay. But we also have to be man-to-man with the 2 wingers. Elise and Eze both coming inside. Dragging our wingers like so. I can't grab Elise. There we go. The wingers coming inside, dragging our fullbacks inside. You can all see the space that this is going to create. Look at the 2 wing-backs for Crystal Palace. All the time in the world to receive the ball. All the time in the world. How could you combat this? You could change pressing shape. You could commit an extra fullback forward to the press maybe. Or you could not press. You could keep the wingers a little bit deeper. Or you could go to a flat 4-4-2. There's a lot of different potential situations and solutions you could come up with. But United didn't. There's a surprise for you. And as a result, it leads to this. Dean Henderson, one simple bowl out to the right wing back. And poor old Garnacho. This is just not what a winger should be doing. The amount of sprints that our wingers do out of possession. No wonder we end up with so many injuries, because this is just ridiculous work. Wingers don't do this for other football clubs. They're just not put in these situations. It's so bad. And of course, the effect of this is, if the wing-backs are going to receive the ball, our full-backs have then got a problem. Because I'm Diogo Dalot, do I go out towards Mitchell and leave the free man here, or do I sit back? As a full-back, I've now got 2 jobs to do. It's not possible. It's not possible. We've got the same for Wan-Bissaka on the other side. Do I go across to the wing-back and leave Elise free? Or do I stay on Elise, but let the wing-back carry the ball forward? It's just stupid. What actually ended up happening more often than not was actually our full-back would engage the wing-back, and then we had Elise and Eze moving into these 2 half spaces. And, you know, let's be fair here. You know, let's not. They're dribbling at Christian Eriksen. Come on. Come on. I feel a bit sorry for Ten Hag here, because we have got Elise dribbling against Christian Eriksen. It's a long day. It's a long day. Kobe Mainoo as well. He's not blessed in the defensive side of the game. He works hard and he does put his tackles in, but he's not an elite defensive player. He doesn't cover a lot of ground. He's not a great duel winner. He's decent, but when he's your best player defensively in your midfield, it is a bit of a problem, and he just couldn't really get close to these Palace players. No one could. Casemiro then thought, you know, it was his job to get close, and Casemiro, man. We'll look at some clips. But basically what's going to happen is Elise and Eze are going to get the ball in these half spaces. We can see the space here. It's absolutely massive. It's so much space to get the ball. And these are dribblers. These are good technical players. We can see Palace have created this box midfield. Like so. And they outnumber us. They ask questions of the centre-backs. And to be honest, completely toy with us. Completely destroy us. Tactically, we got pulled all over the shop. Our individuals got put into situations where they just cannot thrive. And were absolutely torn apart. So we've got Eze on the ball here, dropping deep towards his own half. Casemiro is going to follow him, as I was saying. And Casemiro actually ends up following him quite a long way, which I don't mind, to be fair. It's not a massive issue, as long as players fill in around you and things like that. I guess one problem might be that Dalot is up here, which kind of points to the space which might be, you know, on the right side of our defence. But hey-ho, here we are. Casemiro goes for the pressure, and Eze just does him so easily. So easily. He goes past him, moves forward, carries the ball forward, eventually loses the ball on this occasion, but it's a sign of what's to come. I mean, it's not even a sign of what's to come, because it had already happened in the game. A throw-in for the first goal. Now, don't get me started on Christian Eriksen. I'll cover that in a second. Sky covered it well. I'll do it as well on a different angle in a second. But Elise is going to receive the ball, and Casemiro is going to come out to defend him, and just look at that still shot for a second. We've got Christian Eriksen, I don't know, doing some sort of ballet over here. I'm not sure what's going on there. Then we've got Casemiro who's just laying on the floor. Look at the space on the far side. Anthony's just kind of chilling, standing here. What is going on? Just actually for a second, just appreciate that this is from a throw-in. What is this? Just remove analysis for a second. Just actually take in that picture. It is a sight to behold. And Elise carries the ball forward. Elise is a very good player. We know that. There's a reason we're linked with him, and I might do a video on that tomorrow. Elise carries the ball forward. Eventually gets a shot off. It's a decent finish, to be fair. Should Onana do better? Maybe. I don't think he had his best game in general. But let's just go back to that throw-in. Why is Eriksen so high up the pitch? Get yourself behind the ball in front of your back four. So Palace have to throw the ball backwards. Don't invite them to throw the ball to an unmarked man in the middle of the pitch. What are we doing? I don't understand it. And then, so Elise kind of gets the ball and gets on the turn. And Elise is going to drop his shoulder to the left. And to say Casemiro bought it would be a bit of an understatement. Where is he going? Like, genuinely, where is he going? Elise just drops his shoulder left and then changes direction right. And Casemiro is still going that way. We've got, again, Eriksen in the background doing some sort of ballet or something. I'm not sure what's going on there. But Elise carries the ball forward. And just where is he going? It's so bad from Casemiro. He's not a centre-back, right? I get it. He's playing out of position. He's trying to do a job. It's not ideal. I understand that. But come on, this is meant to be a ball-winning midfielder. He was in a midfield position in this instance. And he's just bad at it. He is just a bad ball winner. He's aged, he's got to a point in his career. He's just not good at winning the ball in midfield anymore. He's just not, honestly. It's so bad. It's so bad. And again, I understand a poor performance, right? I understand a poor performance because, again, if you look at the starting 11, it's not ideal. When Erik ten Hag came into the club, if you told me that was going to be our starting 11 after 18 months, I'd have just sacked it off there and then. It's not great. There's injuries all over the shop. Johnny Evans failed a fitness test, apparently, and started after failing a fitness test. That kind of points to where we are at the moment. But, yeah, it's a bad side. It's a bad side. And it lacks balance, etc. But you just can't go lose 4-0 to Crystal Palace. You just can't. You just can't. Now, Crystal Palace deserve all the credit in the world. I said the other day on stream, I see them as kind of like a mini Bayer Leverkusen. I think they're that good. Tactically, they have a lot of similarities, a lot of similar profiles in similar areas of the pitch. They're really good. They're really good to watch. Watch more Crystal Palace if you can. But it's just not acceptable to lose 4-0. It's not. Under any circumstance, as Manchester United, it's not okay. And I guess perhaps the one occasion it'd be okay is if normally you're good and this was a slip-up. But the results in general this season have been absolutely terrible. This game was pathetic. I feel so sorry for everyone who watched this with any emotion attached because it must have been draining for the soul. I watched it back this morning, like I said, I didn't see it live, but I knew the scoreline. It's just terrible. It is just terrible. It's all I've got to say for today because there's nothing particularly new to break down here. Was that analysis? I don't know, you got a little bit on a couple of tactical shapes there. It's just so bad. It's so bad. You guys all know it's so bad. Who's to blame for it? Yeah, you can point at the club structure for the last 10 years, right? Recruitment hasn't gone well. It's left us with a squad which looks like this. But at the end of the day, a manager's job is to get the best out of what he's got. And did Ten Hag do it with that 11? No, you could have set that team up better. It was never going to be perfect, but you could have set that team up a lot better. Instead, we got absolutely destroyed. Individuals were horrendous. But, when you rely on these individuals in these big moments, and you've got bad players at times, these things are going to happen. It's where Manchester United are at. Honestly, I'm lost for words having watched that game. Will we get another point before the end of the season? I don't know. Is Erik ten Hag going to keep his job beyond the season? Probably a conversation for another day. I understand the argument for, I understand the argument against. One thing I will say is that as a Manchester United fan, and as a Manchester United player even on the pitch, it would be hard right now to look at Erik ten Hag and say, he's definitely the one. Difficult to do that. It is difficult to do that. That's not to say I'm Erik ten Hag out, but yeah, this is where we are at the moment. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you have enjoyed it. It's probably the wrong word. Hope you have enjoyed it. But yeah, I'll see you in the next one.